Those V's lining up on the grid now, and I can see it looks like Alex McDonald, who's going to have the pole position, because Reef McCarthy, Torrin Wiseman, and Kinsella, they're all on their way back down south, and he's got Zanowski and Haderman on the road behind him with a little bit of free space in front of him. Give him a longer run towards turn one. And then you've got Yamuna Sternbeck, who looks like she's going to be starting in fourth. Ed Lawrence and Brody Nunn behind there. Matt Harriet, and they're away with the slightly diminished grid. Still some of the interstaters present, but it's the Queenslander, McDonald, who leads them towards turn one. Wisnowski there with a fantastic run though into second place to close up some of that gap. Put Alex Haderman, the leading driver in the club points, back into third. Yamuna Sternbeck in fourth position at the moment. Ed Lawrence has made some changes in his car that he thinks is going to help him with Brody Nunn behind. And then the rest of the drivers, and we had Seibel, who dropped out of the last race, and he's on the grid for this one. Love to see those drivers tidy everything up, get back on the track and get as much racing as they can into their club weekend. So, McDonald, Wisnowski, Haderman, Sternbeck, Lawrence, Nunn, Moran, McVal, Harriet and Seibel now as the top 10. Gillespie, Hannon, Wright being the other 13 cars out on track. So still a few drivers from New South Wales joining us at beautiful Morgan Park Raceway. It has been a good opening lap here for Alex McDonald. Wisnowski and Haderman look like they're going to have a little bit of a fight for second and third place and allow the race leader to get away. Anyone has held a race lead of more than a second in any of the Formula B races so far this weekend. It does not look like that is about to change, but it presents a great opportunity to drivers like Yamuna Sternbeck to maybe stand on the podium that didn't seem possible in the first three races, but now a good shot. McDonald, a couple car lengths lead, and it's behind where they battle. And Wisnowski has to drop second place as Haderman goes around the outside and one gets a bit of dirt. The two almost collide there between 1 and 2. Alex Haderman, dirt on his tyres, spins off at turn 2. Yamuna Sternbeck goes through into third. The rest of the field come through. Alex Haderman, no contact with the wall, gets it back on track, but he's created a little bit of a dust storm down at turn number 1. Given Wisnowski second place, given Yamuna Sternbeck third, and it looks like Brody Nunn will then move up into fourth with Ed Lawrence in fifth. A great opportunity now for some of these drivers to stand on the podium if they hold it together for the remaining 9 laps of this 10-lap race. All of them 10-lap races for Formula B, which has proved a very enticing race distance. Enough time for them to fill each other out, make some passes, then we get to the final laps very quickly. See who can pass at the right time to take the win. So McDonald still with that race lead, but now there's going to be less battling behind him. They might stand a chance of reeling him in. But Val's gotten ahead of Moran for 6th place. So that could again, a lot of these drivers are going to be on track for their best result of the weekend here in this final race. Crossing the start-finish line again. In blue and black, leading the way, Alex McDonald. In silver and gold and blue, second place, Wisnowski. Yamuna Sternbeck, first outing for her in this car. White, black and orange in third. Hoping to go with the leaders, might drop back and feel pressure from the battle between Brody Nunn and Ed Lawrence. Those changes for Lawrence are looking pretty good as he's right up behind the back of the black V. Brody Nunn in fourth. Could also be a best race for Matt Harriet in 8th at the moment, not far behind those battling positions. Coming up towards the T-junction, the lead gap has closed down. Wisnowski's been able to use the fact that he's not battling with anyone and be able to use the slipstream to close up the 1 second lead that McDonald had. It was down to just 2 tenths as they ended the first sector. And as they head down the sweeping S's and the back straight, there's not a car length between them. Wisnowski will look for a race win. McDonald will look for a race win. Moon Sternbeck still potentially standing on the podium where she runs at the moment. All of these drivers don't want to throw it away. They're in position to take really, really good results to close out the weekend and end on a high. As for Alex Haydeman, he's back in ninth. Seems like that V is still running. He's got the fastest time to the second split on this lap, so he's got speed, but he's buried deep in the field away from where he thinks he maybe should be. Matt Harriet, Mark Moran battling, and Haydeman's going to try to come through there as well in turn one. Haydeman still trying to work his way up through the field. The battle for the lead as well. This is Formula V club style racing. Haydeman right underneath Matt Harriet as they come under the bridge at turn 3, looking to outbrake him at the end there. Heading down into one of the slower corners on the track. Really got a downshift, try to load the car up in that section. Haydeman has pulled it off. So he picks up another 2 spots on this lap on his recovery drive up into 7th. 2 tenths to separate first from second. Yamuna Sternbeck in a spot in the middle there behind the leading duo. 3 seconds behind them, but still 2 seconds ahead of Brody Nunn and Ed Lawrence, which might be enough to not need to worry yet about the slipstream of the cars behind. Just going to need to keep the pace up and keep the consistency to avoid pursuing Brody Nunn, Ed Lawrence, and Val Haydeman, Harriet, Moran, and Mark Gillespie in 10th at the moment of the 13 cars that are all out there still running. I'm not sure I've seen Seidel trip the line yet. Side by side for the race lead. McDonald leading beforehand, holds the inside. Realising it's too early in the race, Disanowski backs out, drops in behind once again, with 6 laps to go. Still a fair bit of time to size this one up, try to make a move. He'll look here, he'll look there. Meanwhile, they might just get caught by Yamuna Sternbeck if they battle side by side too much. She had a good lap last lap. Battling for the lead again through the next of the tight corners, and the inside line, always the preferred place to be in the slow corners. Short run to the next corner nullifies the threat of the over-under, and they get oh so close between McDonald and Disanowski through the T-junction left-hand in the middle part of the lap. Battling yet for the lead. Sternbeck's pulled a couple tenths out of them while they do that, so we could be heading towards a very interesting finish in the final race of the weekend for Formula V Queensland and the Australian Formula Ford National Series at Morgan Park Raceway. Haydeman flying along now in 6th, not too far away from catching Brody Nunn and Ed Lawrence. In fact, he only needs about half a second to get their slipstream. He's getting oh so close to maybe being able to fight back to 4th, potentially as high as 3rd. Remains to be seen. Second place not as close this time around. Less of a challenge for Disanowski on McDonald. Yamuna Sternbeck there in 3rd. Brody Nunn starting to find some pace, find some rhythm here. Ed Lawrence not as close to him as previous laps, but Alex Haydeman, the looming threat here to come back through the field. Next in his sights, purple stinger of Ed Lawrence is close big time. He has the fastest lap of the race to this point, a 127.2. No one else in the 127s, and Haydeman is deep in the massive pace from him at the moment after running off at turn 1 earlier in this race. Leaders side by side at T-junction, but McDonald just placing his car in all the right places so far to stop Disanowski getting to the inside, stop Disanowski putting a threat on him. And Yamuna Sternbeck just far enough back to watch on and hope they battle wheel to wheel. Hope McDonald gets defensive and that she can maybe buy into that fight. And it might be able to save her from Brody Nunn or even Alex Haydeman catching her, as Haydeman's past Lawrence and still flying along next in sights for him. Brody Nunn in 4th. Still no sign of Seidel in 13th, so I think we've got 12 Vs running at the moment. Braxton Hernan Gillespie just outside of the top 10. Leaders trip the start-finish line, and McDonald, leader of another lap. One more lap of pressure sustained as it's 4 to go now. Getting serious, oh so close. Looking one way, looking the other for the race lead. Underneath the bridge at turn 3, again though, McDonald up the inside, down the bottom of the hill. With Disanowski being forced to look around the outside. Play really low percentage too. Haydeman breaks the fastest lap once again with a 26.8 in his pursuit of Brody Nunn in 4th place. Only 3/10 behind at the moment. Those drivers 1.5 seconds behind Yamuna Sternbeck in 3rd. Still not a car length spare between 1st and 2nd place. Wisanowski looks to the inside but can't outbrake in that short section into the corner there, and has to think about either at the bottom of the S's here or into turn 1. His options are diminishing because it'll be 3 to go at the end of this lap. And their lead also diminishing now, only 2.4 seconds over Yamuna Sternbeck in 3rd, 1.4 ahead of Haydeman, who is flying along at the moment. The current Formula V Queensland Club Championship points leader, Alex Haydeman, ahead of the defending champ, Alex McDonald, in the point standings, but it's McDonald who's ahead on track at the moment, heading through turns 1 and 2. Sternbeck soon to be under pressure from Haydeman, only a couple car lengths back there as well. From battling for the lead, he dropped so far back in the field, but Haydeman looking now for a podium. He's dispatched with none. He's only got one driver left. Get back into a podium position. He'll fight for all of it in the Queensland Afternoon Sun Morgan Park Raceway, Formula V Queensland. Again, looks like McDonald covering Wisanowski, having to look over under, crossover, switch back. 3 laps to go, and they will go side by side through the T-junction as well. Great news for those in 3rd, 4th and 5th if they want to catch the lead group and try to buy into it. We've had 6-way fights for the lead come down to the last lap already this weekend. At the moment it's a 2-way fight, could oh so easily become 5 drivers with a chance. Wisanowski has his nose in front, Alex Haydeman's dispatched Sternbeck to 3rd. It's all change in the leading groups with only minutes left in this race. Battle also going on 6th and 7th. Queenslander Ed Lawrence having to hold off the orange machine from New South Wales of Matt Harriet. The lead though, Wisanowski down the inside this time. Looking for the over-under comes McDonald. Tiny bit of traffic in between our leading 2, and then Haydeman in grey and blue is 3rd place ahead of Sternbeck right on his heels. Looking to go with the fastest man in the race to catch up to 1st and 2nd with 2 laps to go. Brody Nunn not too far behind there either. And Val and Harriet also battling past turn 3. 2 laps to go. The gap from 2nd to 3rd has come down from 3 seconds to just 1.6 right now. The battle between Wisanowski and McDonald heating up as it should, heading towards the final laps of the race. Haydeman massively quick, bringing Sternbeck and Nunn along for the ride. Down through the S's they go, and Wisanowski's going to have to defend like a lion when they see the last lap board for the weekend, and there'll be only one more lap, one more circuit of Morgan Park Raceway to settle the weekend and see which Queenslander will be the first to stand on the top step after a race this weekend. The interstate drivers have been so quick, so competitive. Starting the last lap, they're side by side and there's nothing in it between them. Around the outside goes McDonald, so brave, going through into the lead of the race. Alex Haydeman now just 2 car lengths behind Wisanowski in 2nd. Yamuna Sternbeck 4 or 5 car lengths off the back of that. Side by side through turn 3 on the final lap. Again, McDonald knows he can defend the inside if he needs to. That's what he is going to try to do at the end of the straight, holding on to the lead. At defensive driving, it brings 3rd place in close. 3 car lengths to cover, 3 drivers battling for the win, battling for the podium. Anything can happen between here and the checkered flag, and Yamuna Sternbeck in 4th desperately hopes that it will. Now back up the hill to the little crest at the T-junction. Donald's the lead in Wisanowski at the moment. Haydeman with some moves to make heading down the hill. The three of them, oh so close. One last big braking zone. We've seen drivers be able to slipstream past with a good run up the final chicane as well. They're waiting with bated breath. So are we. The top three all within touch, all within a chance of the final win for Formula V's this weekend. And as they come out of that slower corner, back up the hill, through the final chicane, a checkered flag is waiting for a Queenslander, and it's going to be Alex McDonald from Dissanowski from Haydeman. Yamuna Sternbeck's best result of the weekend there in fourth, going with the leaders, and Brody Nunn might not be too disappointed with fifth as he crosses the line not too far away, only 4.2 seconds from the race lead. Ed Lawrence in sixth. His tune-ups might have done reasonably well for him. He's 2 seconds ahead of Matt Harriott, who finished ahead of Val. Mark Moran will be next to take the line in red, white and blue. And he gets ninth.